Hello Paddocks Press readers. Over the past few weeks, we've been discussing various prescribed forms in community scheme management. We've discussed 3 forms so far, have highlighted what they are for, when and how they should be completed, and to whom it should be submitted. Today we will continue with this series by looking at Form CS1, the form used to register a community scheme with the Community Schemes Ombuds Service. New community schemes are required to formally register with the Community Schemes Ombuds Service within 30 days of the date on which they are incorporated. Pre-existing schemes were required to have registered with the CSOS by 7 November 2016. Scheme executives who fail and or neglect to register their scheme will be liable on conviction to a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 5 years or to both a fine and imprisonment. So, if your scheme has not yet been duly registered, don't delay. Fill in the form today. Let's take a closer look at the form together. The first part of the form reads, for office use. This will be completed by a CSOS employee and should be left blank. The next part requires the filling in of the scheme's particulars. The details of the scheme should be filled in as they are at the date of completing the form. If any of the details provided in any part of this form changed, Form CS1A, also available on the CSOS website, has to be filled in and submitted to the CSOS. The particulars to be provided include the name of the scheme, the type of community scheme, for example, is the scheme a sectional title scheme, an HOA, a share block scheme, etc., the number of the units in the scheme, and the details of the scheme's location, physical and postal addresses. The next part of the form pertains to the scheme's governance documentation. Here you tick the documentation applicable to your scheme. For example, if you are a sectional title scheme, you will tick the box next to rules, but not the boxes next to constitution, regulations, memorandum of incorporation, use agreement, or any other governance document. Remember to attach a copy of your scheme's governance documentation when submitting your form. The final part to be filled in on page 1 of this form is the details of the scheme's executive committee. So, the trustees of the body corporate, directors of the share block company or non-profit company, HOA, etc. Every scheme's executive's full names, ID number, telephone number and address is to be provided. In addition, the date of appointment of the scheme executive, normally the date of the previous AGM, is also to be provided. Space is provided to fill in the details of as many as 6 scheme executives on page 1 and 2 of the form. If your scheme has more than 6 executives, just make a note of this in the middle of page 2 and provide the details of the additional scheme executives on a separate page attached to the form. The next detail to be provided is that of the managing agent. Details such as the name, company registration number, address and contact details are to be provided. In addition, the authorized representative is to be identified. In other words, who out of the, let's say, 20 managing agents working at XYZ managing agency is your scheme's dedicated managing agent. Remember to attach the managing agency's registration document to the form when you submit it. At the bottom of page 2 of the form, you are required to provide financial information of your scheme. You will see that the form makes reference to Form CS2. If you are unsure how to complete that form, fear not, as I will talk you through it in next month's Paddocks Press video. In this form, you are to identify the scheme's auditors, furnish the scheme's banking details, specify when the scheme has its financial year end, provide the scheme's fidelity fund detail, and set out the address where the scheme's financial records are kept. This is usually the managing agent's physical address. Remember to attach the scheme's annual financial statements and a copy of the levy schedule to the form before submitting it. This brings us to page 3, the final page of this form. At the top of this page, you are required to provide details of the scheme's authorized representative. This representative will serve as the contact person between the CSOS and the scheme. This is normally the scheme's managing agent, but can also be the chairperson, another trustee, an estate manager, or the like. Remember to attach a copy of the resolution passed by the scheme executives nominating this person as authorised representative to the form before submitting same to the CSOS. Section 7 requires this authorised representative to sign a solemn declaration, thereby declaring that all relevant legislation has been complied with and that all the information provided in this Form CS1 is, to the best of his or her knowledge, true and correct. The final section of the form, Section 8, provides a helpful checklist of potential supporting documentation to be attached to the form before submitting same. Remember, you will only tick the blocks next to the documents applicable to your scheme. They will not all be applicable. After completing the form and attaching all the necessary and relevant documentation, you are to email the form and attachments to registration@csos.org.za or hand deliver same to your nearest CSOS office. I trust that you have found this video helpful. Until next time, goodbye.